So I'd like to ask you a few questions about your artwork. And so, how do people on the street react when they see you sitting there painting?
Well, some people are shy, and other people can't stop themselves and they come close. And then they come close, and then they see the picture, and then they're really glued to the picture. If I can stop, okay, I'll talk to them, chat with them a bit, and then I'll say, look, you realize that that's what I'm painting right in front of you? And then they look up, and they say, oh my God, I didn't realize. That's just one of the reactions I get, but sometimes people say, I never noticed that. And that's what's really kind of fun. Something they pass by like every day on their way to work, on their way to school. And there's a lot going on in the city, and then you just walk down the street not noticing what's around you. And then all of a sudden, one day you come across somebody who's doing a painting and you go, oh wow, that's kind of nice. And that's kind of fun for me. My inspiration comes from what's in front of me. I'm responding to emotions that come from when I see that subject, in a way, fall in love with my subject. I know my subject, and it may have been past this house or this tree or this lake every day of my life for many years, and I'm really connected to it. And my inspiration comes from the familiarity with it. And I think that if artists just look at something for the first time and then replicate it in front of them, I don't think it's got quite the same meaning. And an artist who's lived with the subject has seen it on rainy days, in the winter, in the summer. And so the landscape is kind of understood, felt in a much deeper way. And so that's really where the inspiration is. That's why a local artist is somebody who really feels what it's like to be in that place. And that's really what landscape painting is, the feeling you get when you're at that place. And if it's your neighborhood and you see a painting of your neighborhood, you go, wow, it connects you. And that's what's really, really special. And that's what it's really all about. And I don't think there's quite another way that you can feel so connected so fast as looking at a painting for just a few seconds and having a special mood well up inside you.
This looks like fun, is it?
Yeah, it's great fun, but it's also very hard in a way. And you don't know if you're going to get a good painting. You may have to throw it out when you get home. Most of them come out, but painting is very challenging. It's more engrossing than it is actual just fun, as if you were, watching a movie or playing sports and just losing yourself in it. Painting, you have to be focused, but it's a very rewarding and wonderful experience. So if you talk to an artist, they'll see themselves as that's who they are, and they must paint. This is what they do, to be themselves. It's a little bit of a different thing. People have trouble understanding artists sometimes, but they're motivated to create beauty and see the beauty around them and create their own version of seeing that beauty, through their own eyes. And that means something to other people who sometimes they don't take the time to stop and notice something, and they feel a little inhibited. I mean, why would you stand and just stare at a tree? I mean, that's bizarre behavior for most people. But for an artist, that's a perfectly natural thing to say, wow, that's a beautiful old elm tree, and just to look at it and admire the beauty. So artists might just stand there and admire it, and then maybe even come back with the materials and paint it later on. In the 19th century, there were painters that went around painting street life in New York City. They were called the ash can painters. They were called the garbage can painters because nothing was off limits to them. They wanted to paint the subway station, they wanted to paint trash cans, they wanted to paint kids on the street. And so there was a strong tradition of painting things that weren't necessarily pretty, but they represented everyday life in New York City. So that's a really nice tradition, and it went away from the whole French painting style. The Impressionists were painting beautiful women, flowers, cottages on the Riviera, and in New York City they were painting the bus station and places like that, and it was funny. The dance halls and the pubs. So the ashcan painters are precious to a lot of New York people on the scene. And I went to school in the National Academy of Design, which many of these ashcan painters went to in the 1900s. The reason that there were so many good artists and they knew the city so well is because before photography, you had to draw the action. So they would hear the sirens, they would rush to the site and would quickly draw the burning fire or the action, and then back to the office, turn in their professional illustrations. But on the weekend, they painted the city life the way they saw it, which is a lot of fun.
Has anybody ever approached you in a threatening or menacing way?
No, you know what happens is sometimes somebody's in a really bad mood and they're like throwing their weight around, and then they notice me and it changes their mood. And they go, oh, there's an artist here, what's going on here? And maybe they connect with me or maybe they don't. But it actually changes people's frame of mind when they see somebody doing artwork, and I find that really fascinating. It has a kind of a calming or mesmerizing effect, and so it's kind of a nice, it puts out a nice energy for the neighbors when they see something like that happen.
I think it definitely would be calming, especially you do a lot of landscape painting.
Yeah.
So people will look at your paintings and feel like they're part of it, that they're actually enjoying nature just by looking at your paintings. Why create many small images instead of one large piece?
Well, when you're outside, you have to work fast. Maybe just a half hour you've got, sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes. You see it and it's fresh and you want to capture that freshness. Now, if I worked in the studio and I spent a week doing this, it would lose its freshness, and I'd get fussy, and I wouldn't be out there in the light. I wouldn't be hearing the sounds and the sights and seeing the people around me. Being outside is where my subject is. My subject is the outdoors, and so that's where I am. Of course, it's cheap because you don't have to have a studio in New York. Real estate is an issue, and space is an issue in New York. But really, whether it's watercolor or oil or something else, outside has a special energy, and every line you draw and every brushstroke you make has emotion in it. When you're back in the studio, the way it should be done is you remember what it was like. You have your studies around you, and you recreate it. You're full of the emotion. You bring it back from those notes that you took out of doors. But what I do is something different. I do it all out of doors. And so my finished product sometimes is really just done in 15 minutes. And then there you can see it in this little video.